So, General Spalding, it's a real pleasure having you back on Crossroads.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, we've recently seen several professors and researchers being charged for their involvement in Chinese espionage, and the Department of Education is now heavily investigating CCP espionage in American universities. Now, when it comes to the CCP targeting our universities, how big of an issue is this?
Well, it's a big issue, and I think it just goes to the central threat of the Chinese Communist Party, and that is not an invasion, from the sky or from the sea or from the land. It's really about undermining our society from within. So, it's an invasion of the mind, and the first place that you go if you want to change people's minds is to the university system. So it is kind of the front lines of the battlefield that they choose to operate on.
Now, what are some of the different uses the CCP gets from subverting our universities?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that they're trying to do is create space for their narrative to blossom. They want to create an opportunity to have a dialogue that is oriented to the perspectives that these students are gaining in these universities, and they want to be able to have their narrative be plug and play into the system that they've already kind of adopted as students in the university system. So they want to be in there. They want to be part of the discussion, and they want to mold the minds to be able to accept future messages.
Now, the Chinese Communist Party has a military branch dedicated to political warfare, which is the liaison office of the General Political Department. We've seen several cases now of the CCP financing news outlets and think tanks in the United States. Now, would it be accurate to say this ties to the CCP's programs for political warfare? And how do you see the CCP waging political warfare?
Well, I think the all the traditional ways apply of politics in terms of what the Chinese Communist Party is doing. But I think the interesting thing that they bring that's really a modern twist on Mao's People's War strategy is really the fact that they can leverage data. The connectivity that comes with the global internet and globalization, the connection between social media and e-commerce and regular media. There's a lot of people that talk about cross-platform promotion of ideas, and that's essentially the environment that was purpose made for a regime like the Chinese Communist Party that sees control of the narrative, understanding, and creating understanding of what they want to do in a way that promotes their interest is really the high point of the way they look at warfare. And so Amazon and Google and Facebook have petabytes of data that they can use algorithms on to slowly enculturate and influence their members. This is a tool that the Chinese Communist Party basically has adopted wholesale, and really the reason they created the Great Firewall. It gives them the bastion behind which they can essentially indoctrinate their own population, but at the same time they can deploy these apps, services, and business models abroad to not only make money for companies like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, but use those same companies to create a fertile environment for their ideology to spread.
Now, the Chinese regime is getting more aggressive in its territorial claims, including in its border conflicts with India and in the South China Sea. We're seeing now, however, that many countries are taking a stronger stance against it. What do you think the trajectory of this is?
Well, I think that's going to continue. I think it's a part of the nature of the regime. I think it's specifically tied to Xi Jinping, who sees territorial issues as his legacy. We're going to have to continue to essentially push back against it. Coercion and bullying in the international space is something that we've been dealing with for a long time, and I think we needed to continue to work with allies and partners to prevent. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to lead to further, heightened conflict, and that's because of the presence of nuclear weapons in the equation. So I think you're going to see that as a feature going forward. I think the United States needs to work to prevent that and ameliorate that, but at the same time, the real focus of what the Chinese are trying to do is really in the ideological, the political, the internet space that really drives so much of our society in politics today.
Hey, General Spalding, thanks again for being on Crossroads.
Thank you.
Now, we'll be showing the extended version of this interview on Patreon for our supporters there, and we'll be going more in depth into China's unrestricted war, so please join us there. Now, with that said, folks, again, we're broadcasting Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. And also, if you want to support us, please join us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. And also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, it really helps this channel grow.